Maxie, I've been thinking, should we do season 3 on the Dr. Joe show? You sure? You sure it's a good idea? Let's see. Gotta be in here somewhere. What am I looking for? No, there's one of them. Maximus Churchill. Let's see if there's anything else in here that we need. Oh, there's something we're gonna do soon, that's for sure. Take a trip over here. Oh, let's see. Here we go. Beauty's all around, my friends. Somebody said to do a humidor tour. That's not what we're doing. Well, it is kind of, but we're really looking for something. Something we need for this episode. We just found one of them. Let's see. How are we doing here? Very nice. Very nice. I think... Oh no. More Fuentes. It's got to be in here somewhere. Hold on one second. As you can tell, it's going to be a very fun season. But we did Fuente. We'll have to go back to them. How are we going to cover all these cigars? Here we go. Spotted the culprits. Oh, pardon it. Let's see. Mr. Julius Caeser. Alright, and more Maximuses. Well, I tell you what, there's another Churchill. There's Double Bellicoso, Pyramid. You know, I'll decide which one, but there they are. These are very important for our next episode. Very, very important. Welcome to the Dr. Joe Show. I'm Joe, and today we begin our journey into JC Newman. And to start off our journey, I have chosen Brick House, and I have done so for a reason. We're doing a bit of a new format here. Instead of smoking a single cigar throughout an entire brand history, each part, just like you know, every cigar brand history has parts, will smoke an entire and rate a different cigar. Today we are smoking the Brick House Churchill. I say Churchill because this isn't exactly a Churchill proportionate Vitola. This is a 7¼ inch by 50 ring gauge cigar, where you all know a Churchill is a 7x47, a standard Churchill, yet they've dubbed it the Churchill anyway. I've already removed it from the cellophane, and first things first, wow, I mean pow. Huge aroma, very, very meaty, barny, and it smells like something that just definitely has a lot of flavor. Really, really nice, especially at the foot. Bullion, I just think bullion. The aroma of the wrapper is a little bit sweeter. There are some very faint cocoa type notes. As far as looks go, it's a very, very handsome looking cigar. Very well wrapped. The seams are visible, but it's a tight roll. Feels very nice, no loose spots. A little bit firm, but pliable. Some medium-sized veins and a lot of very, very tiny veins throughout the wrapper that you can't feel but you can see. A nice deep, deep leathery brown color with some oils coming through. This is not the most oily specimen. These cigars tend to be very, very oily. The wrapper I have here is actually a bit papery with hardly any tooth to it at all. Interesting. Interesting. Not particularly the flavors I thought I was going to get from the aroma. Some naturally sweet notes. Nutty. A little almost caramel-esque type notes. Little bit of salt coming through. There's that bullion. Tiny bit of spice. It's got some earth to it. There's the meat. A bit of an almost, not even almost, a bit of a coppery type flavor. Like a raw meatiness to it. A little more spice developing now at the tip of the tongue. So far, some decent flavor on the pre-draw. Let's light it up and see where this brings us. Woo! Ho 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 ho! Got to the very end of that one. Very, very smoky character to it. Nice big cloud of smoke. Nice aroma. Spicy, a bit woody as far as the aroma goes. Tiny bit floral, peppery. The flavor is meaty, smoky, with a very slight touch of this natural sweetness to it. Some black pepper, a little spice picking up. I like this cigar because it's long, which, even though it's a 50 ring gauge, gives it a nice wrapper to filler ratio, which to me always, not always, but a lot of the time, I find cigars that have a higher wrapper to filler ratio tend to be more well balanced. Maybe even a little more flavorful, a little more complex. Nice. Nice. I like it. Okay, let's move into our brand history.
The aromatic annual called tobacco.
JC Newman is a very different company as far as a lot of the older Cigar Companies go, by a Cuban who moved to the DR or Nicaragua and started his own cigar company there. It was started by a Hungarian who moved to Cleveland, Ohio, and soon after started his own business. So when we talk about Americanized cigar companies, we mean cigar companies that are either in Nicaragua or Honduras or Dominican Republic, wherever outside the U.S., that mainly serve the U.S. in terms of production and shipping and where they're selling their cigars, who they're selling their cigars to. Newman established JC Newman Cigars in Ohio in 1895. So this is an American cigar company through and through. Not only that, but it is the oldest family-owned and operated cigar manufacturer that still exists in the U.S. today. 1890, Ohio. At 14 years of age, a young Newman works as an apprentice for a cigar maker. His mother pays $3 an hour so her son can learn the trade. After he does, he works as a cigar maker, for a cigar maker, he's not his own company yet, for the next 3 years. However, a recession hits. At that time, around 1895, there was an astonishing number of cigar makers throughout the United States. Cigar manufacturers, cigar makers throughout the United States. One site online, which I have a hard time believing this, but this is what it says, puts the number at 40,000 cigar makers. So there was a huge recession, a ton of people were laid off, including the young JC Newman. I should have mentioned this earlier, but the JC, many of you already know this, in JC Newman actually stands for Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar, or Caesar, or Kaiser, or however you want to pronounce it. Well, if you were referring to the Julius Caesar of Rome. But Caesar here is actually spelt different. The story goes, and there's always a story for everything. How true this is, who knows. The story goes that Julius Newman didn't have a middle name. And when he was coming through from Hungary on Ellis Island, the people who record all the immigrants coming through wanted to put a name. I guess the guy either liked the kid or decided, hey, you need a middle name or something like that. But it goes that the people at Ellis Island gave him the middle name, Caesar. But it was spelt wrong. So his name is Julius Caeser Newman with a spelling of E-R instead of A-R. Anyway, disgruntled from getting laid off after all that apprenticeship and then 3 years as working for a cigar maker, JC Newman decides to start his own business. This is a true American dream type story. In the family barn, he constructs a single rolling bench out of some old scrap plywood, and with no more than $50, buys enough tobacco to start rolling a decent number of cigars. Well, it wasn't long before he received his first order, 500 cigars, from the family grocer. And thus, JC Newman Cigar Company was born. Newman's first brand was called ABC, which stood for Akron, Bedford, and Cleveland, which was the name of the local street line car in his neighborhood. So far, so good. The first third, very much the way I described it on the light, except it's gotten a little spicier, a little stronger, a little bit of leather, more woody now. Salt has lightened up. Spice is gotten a little deeper. Little bit of tingling on the tongue and all that. The smoke is a little bit hot. It's got a decent draw with a nice firm pull, but getting real big clouds of smoke. So that's very nice. Strength, I would say, is really medium bodied. It's not very full yet, and I'm enjoying it. Still that background, naturally sweet tone there, which I would call something like a caramelesque note, but it's very faint, and it's definitely a hint in the back. But it's there. It's there. It's not a cigar where I said, as with so many other, there's no sweetness to the cigar. There's definitely a little bit of sweetness to the cigar. Like I said, when we were examining the cigar before I lit it, you can smell some very faint notes of cocoa on the wrapper, but that bullion smell overwhelms everything. And from that smell, I thought this cigar was going to be a lot more salty than it is. And it's really not that salty at all. It's got a nice touch to it, subtle. Some very good flavors coming through. Little rough around the edges, little harsh. Aroma is nice, woody, some cedar in there, pepper. Very, very nice. So, let's get on with our JC Newman brand history. Where are we? We're in JC Newman's garage. He just started his business. He sold his first order, 500 cigars, and only 5 years later, he has 75 rollers employed, and he's making, well, enough cigars to support him and his family. That's in 1900. By 1910, he marries a woman by the name of Gladys Pulaski and has 4 children, 2 sons and 2 daughters. And by this time, 1910, 15 years from when he first started on that single rolling table, he is now employing over 700 workers and putting out a lot of cigars. At that time, and I like to follow this as we go along, at that time, JC Newman's most popular cigar was a brand by the name of Judge Wright. W-R-I-G-H-T. Sounds like one of those TV shows. Anyway, the slogan for this cigar was, "A fair trial will give a verdict in favor of this cigar." That was the promotional selling slogan. Okay? My verdict is, I don't like that slogan. But, however, I assure you, that slogan is highly representative of those times. It was 1910, and I'll tell you right now, if they came out with a cigar tomorrow, and on the box in quotes it said, "A fair trial will give a verdict in favor of this cigar," I would have to buy one. I would just have to find out. What, you're just tempting me to hope it's a bad cigar so I can bash it on my show, just from saying that. I mean, what a slogan. Very funny, very humorous, I find. But again, representative of the times. Judge Wright. Those were good times for JC Newman Company. 700 employees, 2 factories, but you know what era this is. Soon would come the Great Depression, and it did. And when it did, this was a time that spelled certain doom for cigar manufacturers. Think about it. Cigars are luxury products, People are not going to buy cigars when they don't have enough money to buy bread. So, inevitably, every single cigar manufacturer in Newman's area shut their doors. All but 2. Him and a company called Mendelssohn. Not sure if there's any relation to the classical composer, but that was the name of the company, Mendelssohn. And in a bid for survivability, JC Newman and Mendelssohn merged their companies. Now, JC Newman always, I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the history so far. I'm looking at the beginning. And I'm saying to myself, JC Newman always wanted to be his own company. He always wanted to own his own company. Fact of the matter is, when you're your own boss, you can't get fired. And JC started his company based upon that reality after being laid off during the first recession we talked about. But for now, let's take a look at what I call the M and N years. That's what the company became. Newman and Mendelssohn merged and became M and N Cigars. Not M&M Cigars, M and N Cigars. Our second third. For a little while in the second third, flavors toned down a bit. Everything kind of came together. It got a little creamier, smoother, but not through the nose. This is not a cigar you want to retrohale, as they say. This is not a cigar you want to put through your nose. It's harsh. There's a bit of ammonia to it, but only through the nose. It's rough. You can do it, but it's rough through the nose. This is a cigar best smoked without any of that. Flavor's toned down a bit. That strong coffee note that started coming in at the beginning of the second third toned down a lot toward the end of the second third. Now, getting right here in the cigar, coming right into the last third, those naturally sweet notes are much more pronounced. So as the cigar is getting hotter, and it is acquiring some heat at this point, it's becoming fairly soft. The burn is, well, not even, but burning very well. You can see I have some more wrapper here, but no touch-ups, nothing like that. A very toasted caramel type flavor coming through. A little bit nutty, a little bit spicy, very little, not too much, a little pepper. Salt has all but died down. It's very subtle, and the base is woody. It's woody right now. All of that combined, though, makes for a pleasant smoke. I still don't find this cigar as being full-bodied right now. Medium. A strong medium. But I wouldn't even start calling it medium full just yet. A touch of coffee, but more of that naturally sweet caramel type flavor. Almondy toward the back of the palate. A little strong coffee toward the back of the palate, but caramel up front. Nice. Let's finish up with our brand history as we smoke this final third, and then I'll finish the cigar and give you our final rating on the Brick House Churchill. Over a decade went by, and Newman, during that time, had finally saved up enough to buy back his portion of the company from M&N Cigars. Basically, he bought his partner out. JC Newman was once again owned by JC Newman. However, the name didn't change back to JC Newman Company. Not yet. This was 1938, and at that time, since we're following this trend, the most popular cigar was John Carver. However, let's rewind just 1 year before Newman bought his company back. In 1937, Newman envisioned, created, and released a cigar by the name of Brick House. The cigar, Brick House, basically refers to Newman's childhood home in Hungary. The family lived in a brick building on the second floor, where on the first floor was the tavern that they owned and operated. When I read all of this and put everything together, it just kind of hit me. I could see Newman in 1937 with almost enough money to buy his company back, reminiscing on his childhood, reminiscing on everything he had done to build JC Newman Cigar Company, being very nostalgic, and coming out with this brand, Brick House. Brick House today is a revival brand. Many JC Newman cigars actually are. When the cigar was originally created, it was Cuban, as were just about all, if not all, cigars at that time, 1938, 1937, 1938. But in another way, Brick House was a revival brand when it was created the first time round. A revival of JC Newman's company. A revival of everything he had built for him, for his family. You gotta remember, he has a wife and 4 kids, and a long future ahead of him. So he's thinking about all that, preparing to buy his company back, and out he comes with this brand, Brick House. That's how the cigar was created. What we're smoking now is a revival of that brand. And just like that brand, today it stands for the very same thing, because today JC Newman Company is still JC Newman Company, the oldest family-owned and operated cigar manufacturer in the United States today. And that is the story of Brick House. Whew. We are coming down to the nitty-gritty, folks. I'm a good over halfway through the final third here. Almost nubbing. Still smoking beautifully. Slightly uneven burn. No big deal. Pulling like a champ. Drawing like a champ. Burning like a champ. Very, very nice. Great construction, especially at this price range. I'm very impressed. Great looking cigar. Great smoking cigar. Flavor-wise, very good. Very good. I like the first third. Second third wavered, but was fairly good. Here in the final third, flavors are a little strong on the coffee side, leaning on the verge of a little bit of bitterness. And there's a bit of that naturally sweet note. I don't know how to describe it perfectly, but it's a bit of a gluey flavor now. And, you know, it's smokable, it's okay, but I'm not really overly enjoying the flavors here at this point. Also, it's getting very hot now. But the beginning of the final third was okay, and overall for the price range, I think it's hard to beat this. Very, very good. Very good. Smoke was creamy throughout most of the cigar. Now it's getting a little bit wispy as the cigar is heating up. I'm trying to put a pinch on this. Still a few more pulls left. A little bit of pepper. Mostly fairly bland at this point. Let's wrap it up. Let's do our final rating. We have a lot more to get into with our JC Newman brand history. Next up, we're going to be smoking a brand, another revival brand, a brand that's, well, been bought and then discontinued and then revived, and it's been around for a long time since its revival, Cuesta Rey. There are several different versions. We can't smoke them all, but we can certainly smoke and rate one of them while continuing in our second part of our JC Newman brand history episode. Well, episode. I'm so used to saying that. It's not going to be an episode with parts anymore. It's going to be review number 40. Review number 39, JC Newman Brick House. Review number 40, JC Newman Cuesta Rey. Well, there you have our Brick House Churchill all smoked up. Look at those ashes. Very nice, very solid. Not much left there. Overall, a very satisfying cigar. Let's go over our final scores. Appearance, a .75. Very, very nice looking cigar. Not perfect, but definitely looks like it's worth more than you paid for it. Very nice color, nice oils coming through. Mine was a little bit papery, a couple of seams here and there, but very, very well rolled, very well made. No lumps, nice Parejo shape, very straight, well capped. Burn, a .75, a little uneven. A little uneven to the point where it made me a little uneasy. Felt like I was going to need to give it a touch up here and there. I didn't though. Construction, a 1, and draw, a 1. Very, very nice draw in the cigar. Big, easy pull, clouds of smoke, a little bit of resistance, just the way I like it. Pre-draw flavor, .75. Like I said, first of all, the shock was the flavor compared to the initial aroma of the cigar. Two very, very different things, which led me to believe, wow, this is going to be very interesting. And in a way it was. Overall flavor, 1.25. Started out a little mellow, picked up, flattened out a little in the middle, picked up again, and then toward the end just kind of died. But there were some very nice flavors in there when there was flavor. A little bit of natural sweetness, a little bit of pepper, a little bit of coffee. Cigar smoker's flavors, a cigar smoker's cigar. Rather nice. Aroma, a 0.5. You know, the funny thing is about this aroma is that when I was rating it looking back, I couldn't really recall too much about it, which means it really didn't knock me out at all. It was there, it was okay, there was nothing bad about it, but there was nothing memorable about it either, so I gave it a 0.5. Balance, 0.75. Like I said, the flavor wavered in and out a little bit. This is not balanced in terms of strength here, that was fine. Medium, well, even there, medium all the way until the end, where finally halfway through the last third it picked up into medium full. I would have liked to see a progression come up a little more somewhere in the middle and then get a little fuller toward the end in this cigar. But the main reason here for the 0.75 is the wavering in and out of flavor. A couple of little flat spots, you know, nothing terrible though. Complexity, a 0.5. Not a very complex cigar. There were some change-ups. The cigar did change throughout, but there weren't a whole lot of bells and whistles. And again, nothing that I couldn't put my finger on. Straightforward and simple. A very solid smoke, especially considering the price. A smoker's cigar with an added bonus. The added bonus being some extra flavor, more than you would usually get for the price you pay. That's what I wrote because that's how I feel. And that's it, folks. Thanks so much for watching. Please do come back for our next episode. It'll be number 40, where we will continue with our JC Newman brand history, but this time we'll be smoking a Cuesta Rey. And that should be cool because the brand history behind that cigar itself is very interesting. Thanks for watching, and keep on smoking. Say goodnight, Max.